All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to give a few more minutes for folks to join us, but welcome to our webinar at Vertical Aspect for LumiDB. For those just joining us, we're giving a few more minutes for people to join. We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us in our first of a three-part webinar series with LumiDB, showcasing some of the different functionalities of LumiDB. I'm Christian Stallings. I'm the president of Vertical Aspect. We are a partner with LumiDB, and on the webinar today, we have Xavier Aranya, the uh, head of sales at LumiDB. Today's session, like I said, is the first of three parts talking about some of the functionality of LumiDB. LumiDB is a cloud platform and a point cloud data infrastructure to help companies manage their massive data sets in a cloud environment. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the difficulties of dealing with large data sets for AEC firms or service providers in the different ways of hosting and sharing that data with LumiDB. So with that, I'm going to actually, before I kick that off, a couple of housekeeping things. We do have Q&A session. We do encourage you as we go through the presentation, if you have any questions, please post those there. After the presentation, we'll go through and answer any questions that you have about the platform. And with that, I will kick it off to Xavier.
All right. Thank you, Christian. And thanks everyone for making the time today. I really appreciate the time. So my name is Xavier. Christian said I'm the lead go-to-market here at LumiDB. If you're joining from a browser, whatever it is, please welcome and feel free to drop questions as in the chat as Christian just said it. So Caroline and Christian are watching it, and we will address all the questions you have later today. I'm also joined by our CTO, Yasin Bushnayev. So between the two of us, we should be able to respond to pretty much anything that comes up, whether that's technical or otherwise. But before we get into today's specific topic, I would like to very briefly tell you a little bit about who LumiDB is, because perhaps for a good number of attendees today, it is the first time that you are hearing the name. So I will share my screen, and I have prepared a few slides. So hopefully you can see my slides soon. Can you, Christian or Caroline, confirm that you can see my slides? Okay,
we can.
Great, excellent. So the online version would be LumiDB is a spatial data warehouse for industrial 3D scanned data. Point clouds come first and foremost. That's the hardest data type to work with at scale. And increasingly rasters and vector layers come alongside them. So we were founded by a team that came out of Amazon, most of it, where a few of us have spent years building mapping and geospatial platforms that had to handle enormous archives reliably. The problem our founders kept running into there is basically the same one that a lot of you live with every day. Capture has scaled, but access hasn't. So here is what I mean by that. Over the last several years, the point cloud volume has exploded. For instance, whether you're using a UAV LiDAR, a mobile mapping system, terrestrial scanning, pretty much all of it. The world is genuinely being digitized currently at a petabyte scale, but the infrastructure to move that data from the sensor to whoever or whatever needs to use it hasn't caught up. So it's still built the way it used to be. The file-based systems were built 10 or 15 years ago. The physical drives, the FTP transfers, the shared network folders, and email with a link that times out. So every one of those handoffs still runs through a trained specialist who has to crop, thin, reformat, or re-export a given set of data or data sets over and over once and under every single request. So that is the gap that LumiDB tries to close. And the problems we hear about constantly, whether we are talking to a two-person survey shop or to a national transport authority, could be summarized into the three you see in your screens. We have the scattered data, which is sitting across drives, portals, and email attachments, and it's genuinely unclear whether the canonical version lives or who even asks. We have the expert bottleneck, meaning that massive point clouds require someone technically to manually crop and export a usable subset every single time, which means you most experienced people spend a lot of time as human file converters instead of doing the work you actually were hired for. And the last but not least would be the result of these first two, which is the underutilized data. So by some estimates, roughly 70 to 90% of captured scans sits without being pretty much touched on a project that has been funded and the capture has finished. So you pay in full the capture of the data, but you get in practice to use it once or twice. So as I said, LumiDB is here to close that gap. And the important distinction is really the core of what we believe, which is we are not another place to put your data. We're not competing with any cloud storage or hard drives. What we are doing is we're building the access layer that sits on top of your archive and makes it reachable by anyone from anywhere without a specialist standing in the middle. So it's pretty much access, it's not storage. Here we can see the good old way where one captures data, processes, and then finally the last stop is the storage. Here we can see a high-level diagram of how LumiDB is sitting. So we have the viewer that sits on top. We have the control layer, which lies underneath, and then we have the storage layer. The scan data can be raw scan data or can be processed through a desktop tool such as TerraSolid, where many of you have processed a good number of data. That data can be published, as we can see, or as we will see later on, into LumiDB very easily. And then downstream, we have the different connectors to which LumiDB connects. Among them, we have Esri's ArcGIS, QGIS, or a number of other platforms that you see in your screens. So what are the three key capabilities that this access layer exposes the same archive into. So we have the sharing with customers, meaning that your customers get a live branded project workspace that opens straight in a browser with no software to install, no file to download, just a link. We have the connectors, which means that your team's own tools, whether it's ArcGIS, QGIS, any CAD application, get it as a live stream so engineers view and query the data directly instead of waiting on someone to export and hand them a file. And last but not least, we have the automated workflows and AI get it through the REST API, so anyone can build a change detection pipeline, a classification model, or a custom application that can reach the full archive programmatically instead of working off a hand-picked export. So as we already said, these webinar sessions will consist of 3 different sessions. Today we have the one that will primarily focus on the sharing part, and already dated on August the 5th, there will be the session number 2 focused on the API. And the session number 3 will happen in late August, which will focus on the reusing of LiDAR data once it is captured. So having said that, the next step will be to give you a brief demo of the product. And within the demo, I will try to touch the 4 different categories or aspects that we find vital or key for the sharing of the data. One is the upload or the transfer of data from TerraScan into LumiDB. The second persona would be the stakeholder who wants to see the data. So we will explore our app and see what can you actually do, how you can explore data, how you can share the data. The third persona will be the GIS or CAD team. So how we can connect LumiDB onto the different products, and we will look more carefully into S3's ArcGIS and QGIS. And last but not least, a brief mention on to how to project into the right coordinate reference system. So I will stop this presentation and I will share the next part. Can you confirm that you can see my screen?
We can.
Excellent. So for the first part, or how to transfer data from TerraScan onto LumiDB, I have opened here Spadix and TerraScan within Spadix, as you can see, and it is already open a chunk of data from downtown area of Helsinki, Finland. It is an airborne LiDAR data with no particular specifications, 185 million points. I think the average point density was about 60 points per square meters. So there is an easy way to upload this data into LumiDB, which is when one presses in TerraScan pull-down menu, there is upload to LumiDB, just as simple as that. You press the button, one enters the company-based API key, gives a name onto the dataset, gives the correct EPSG code, selects the data, and simply press OK. Once we press OK, it is a standard uploading process, so it might take a couple of minutes to upload this data depending on the size of the dataset. Now I have jumped into the LumiDB control panel or dashboard, where we can see the different projects I have and the different datasets within these projects. One of the things that we will see when uploading data from TerraScan is that the data itself is not put in any particular project, so it's left orphan. So we will need to select the data, and once we select the data, we need to move it to the right project. So I select my project, and there is now my data within the project I wanted to put in. In this project, I have a number of different data sets. I have an orthophoto. Sorry, I need to go a little back. I have an orthophoto, as you can see it in the background. I have also a digital elevation model, both of them in GeoTIFF format. And then I have a number of different point clouds. I will hide my ortho or my rasters to increase the or to have things a little more in order. And now I see the different data sets, point cloud data sets I have in my project. There I also visualize the data I just imported from TerraScan. So as we can see, it overlaps, it's correctly georeferenced. There we see the flight lines, the classification, and how any user can filter this data by simply selecting the layer that is of interest. We can tick them off, tick them on, and visualize any other attribute that is included in the point cloud. We can change the level of detail in case we need an increased enhancement. We can also change the unit onto the imperial system, and we can create easily an animation of the point cloud we have on file. We can also look at the distance value that TerraScan computes. That is going to be available in the product very, very soon. So now I have gone on to the staging part of the product, and there you see how the distance value, in this particular case, the distance value from the ground would look for this particular dataset. It's not currently released, but it will be very soon. So once we have checked that the data is correct, I will hide it, and I will work with other datasets that cover a larger area for the purpose of the demo. Here we have in different colors 2 different datasets in the district of Jätkäsaari in Helsinki. The green data refers to the mobile mapping system. The salmon color data refers to the airborne aerial system. There you see how we can hide and show again, very, very flexibly, change the different attributes and coloring, and look at the classification. And there we see how the mobile mapping data has a more extensive classification available. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Another thing we can do is to find a specific address. I searched an address that is on the other side of the city. And here I wanted to show you how 2 different datasets captured by 2 different capturing methods. Here we have a static scanner that has captured a theater, interior theater, how correctly georeferenced can be visualized so easily, so efficiently within LumiDB. I think we do have another example of some mobile mapping data captured on the eastern part of the city, if I'm not mistaken, for the purpose of building a light rail track. We can, of course, lock different data if we want them to be safe and untouched, so no one messes the work a given technician has done. And another thing we can do is to look at change detection. So here we have distance by terascan computed, and we are now located at the outskirts of Helsinki in a municipality called Kerava, and we are looking at the two different scans from the year 2021 and 2024, and there you can see the yellow color representing change. So in the year 2021, there was a park. In the year 2024, we have a new building. And in this particular case, we can see that the scan in 2021 did not collect any hits on the facade. The one captured in 2024 did collect a good number of hits in the facade. So change detection is also about quality, and that's something that Lumi and the comparison option enhances and facilitates the users. Again, we can look at the classification. I'm gonna zoom in onto an area where a number of different construction work is being done for the purpose of simply measuring a utility pole. I select line, I snap on a given point, and I get my line drawn. But it's not only about the line, I can also draw a path or a polyline. There we see it. I do a double click, it gets saved. I can also compute an area. And there I'm drawing a polygon that will come up with an area in hectares, but also in cubic meters for the volume. I can also look at an individual point, and I will get the coordinates, and I can clip or copy them to clipboard very, very easily. If I had some GeoJSON file that included different annotations, I could also easily import and add onto the file. And there again, we go with the profile views. We can extend it as much as we want. Make it bigger, zoom in and zoom out, select the depth following different units for the different purposes that might be of interest. I'm gonna zoom out. I'll close that. I see again the classification. It doesn't take longer than a minute to really become efficient. The right click of the mouse allows you to zoom in 3 dimensions. And then again, we very often are only interested in a small chunk of data. So if that's the case, and if this district or part of this district was of my interest, I can simply close a polygon. There you see it. It's a combination of a mobile mapping and aerial data. I could tick off either of them, but I would like to download both of them. So I can download on all these formats or following the original files. Or I could share it to or with whoever stakeholder, internal or external, by providing him or her a given set of rights as a viewer, analyst, editor, or admin. So the closer to admin you are, obviously, the more rights you would have. The viewer can only, as you guess, visualize the data. This is the email, the type of email you would receive once I share a project. And there is also a possibility of making the project public. So a link is created, and if I open a new tab in my browser, we'll see how this exactly works. So this would be the view anyone would get if you would share the public link. So easy, so simple. So we've looked at the TerraScan to LumiDB, and we also looked at the possibility of exploring data for those who need to see but don't have the technical ability to, or don't have the specialist product to open the data and to visualize. Let's focus now on the connectors. It's really simple to connect the data with all products that are compatible. Again, I crop my data. I press the share button. This creates an ArcGIS I3S link. I copy this link, and all I would need to do is to go to ArcGIS, open a local scene, and once the local scene opens, I'll go to Map and add data from path. I'll paste the link I just created. I'll need to, again, put the API key. I press OK. And this is a moment I suffered from a demo effect. This should happen immediately, should be a second or two. And most likely because my laptop was performing different operations, it took a little longer than that. But when I was about to kill it, that's when the data was finally streamed. So let's be a little patient for that. And there we have it. As I said, this should be instant. This should be, and it has been really working fairly well. It is something that perhaps Yasin can tell us a little about later in the Q&A session. There we see our data within ArcGIS. And then again, remember that I3S, it is a protocol to visualize data. If we wanted to process this data within ArcGIS, we will need to run a different tool. and then our data would be within a minute or two available to run any processing we wanted. Extract las is the tool the user would need to run. Then again, let's talk about rasters. If we wanted to connect raster data with any of the products downstream, such as ArcGIS or QGIS, we would need to do the following. I will do it in QGIS for you to see a different product. Again, I copy a URL, I paste it there, and once again, I need an API key, which I paste it, and there it is. And if I visualize it together with the OpenStreetMap, I can see that it is georeferenced perfectly. Simple, easy. Anyone can do it. Okay, I didn't mention, but the importing of data is fairly simple as well. You see the button import beneath all the layers. So we press import data, and we would need to select the type of data we are interested at, whether it's a raster vector in the shape of GeoJSON or a point cloud, and the data will be shortly uploaded into the product. But this is the demo I wanted to give to all of you today. There is one thing I did not mention, and that is the re-exporting in the coordinate reference system. So when the data is downloaded, or when the request of a download is performed, the software or the application gives us two possibilities. One is the georeferenced option, the other is the local EPSG. So Lumi does give a possibility for the user to set a given offset if any other local reference system is needed or wished for the task of re-exporting. So that is also an option, a very easy option, which I have not shown in the demo, but I'll be happy to talk about in the Q&A session, or perhaps at a different demo, and at a different individual demo. This is the demo. I will stop the sharing now, and I will briefly go back into the slides I had. Can you see my slides?
We can.
Yes, excellent. So to put it plainly, finally, there are three clear benefits. We do, or the platform, the app does provide an accelerated project delivery. So there is a clear time saving that our users experience from day one. There is a higher value of your data. So data gets used repeatedly, or the likelihood of data being used repeatedly for you to get more out of the data increases significantly. And then this provides a possibility of an automated analysis at scale. So there are different things we are working on. that will still enhance the possibilities, different connectivities with different AI tools, two-way connection with TerraScan. We do hope that there will be increased benefits already now, but coming up very soon, that our users will benefit for. As we already spoke, as I already said, this is session 1, stop preparing files, start delivering data. The session 2 will focus on the API side, and the session 3 will focus on the reuse of the data. You are more than welcome to join these sessions as well. Last but not least, I wanted to simply mention where could you find us in the near future. There will be 2 trade shows we will participate at in North America. One of them happening very, very soon, as soon as next week. So we will stay in San Diego. If you have a chance to be there, please visit us, drop us a message, and let's connect. If you are doubting and you would like to come to San Diego, we do have some discounts available for different users or prospects. So simply, again, drop us a message and let's talk about that. And then again, we will come back into the US by the beginning of September, Commercial UAV Expo, where we hope to connect with different surveyors and UAV players. And last but not least, of course, we will also be at InterGeo. So that's all I wanted to say. Christian, I send back to you, and yeah, let's go with the Q&A.
Excellent. Thank you, Xavier, for showing some of the functionalities of LumiDB. We do have some questions. If you have some more questions, please put them in the chat. I think we'll also bring Yasin into this to answer some of the technical questions as well. So the first question is there a maximum limit on the size of data that a user can upload into LumiDB?
Yasin, would you like to respond onto that?
Yes, I can. So, hey, everybody. So not really, no. We've successfully brought in multi terabyte datasets, point cloud datasets, I should say, into the product. We have a demo that we've been showing from the North Island of New Zealand, which consists of some, I think it's around 13.5 terabytes of compressed LAZ files in 25,000 individual files merged into a set of datasets within LumiDB in a single view. So you can bring in fairly large datasets in there. And obviously, we've built the system ground up to be really, really scalable to support the the requirements of the parties that own these assets. So yeah, large datasets are very much supported.
Excellent. I think this next question, Xavier, you kind of answered in the presentation, but we didn't go through all the different formats. The question is, what file formats does LumiDB support for both import and export?
Yeah, for now, it is for point clouds, I believe it's LAZ, LAS, naturally E57. We are adding support for some of the proprietary file formats that some of the scanner vendors provide, namely Regal, I suppose. But then, and yeah, adding new file formats both ways, both in import and export, is fairly simple for us to do, and so we are kind of heavily prioritizing our roadmap based on the needs of our existing users. So if there's any specific formats that you'd like us to support, we'll be very open to adding it. For exports, it's pretty much, I think, the same. There's GLTF in addition there, and maybe some others I've forget. Then obviously there's a big bunch of raster formats that we support as well. So all the usual suspects such as geotiff and ASC files and XFILE and those kinds of file formats. But yeah, adding format support is pretty easy.
Excellent. This next question is about the TerraSolid integration. Xavier, when you showed it, you uploaded one LAS file, but can you upload multiple LAS files? For example, if you have a tiled project in TerraSolid, can you select all those LAS or LAZ files in the uploader tool in TerraSolid to upload them into Lumi?
Yasin, do you?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. I'm not 100% sure because the integration is actually have been implemented by TerraSolid, but I do think they do support it. At least from our end, there's no reason why it wouldn't be supported because like all of our imports are built on the fact that typically the datasets are split into tiles. So fundamentally, there's no reason why it shouldn't be, unless there's a TerraScan specific limitation there. But I don't think there is, so I think it should be fine.
Next question, can you convert the coordinate systems of the data in LumiDB? So for example, if it's uploaded in one coordinate system, do you have to download it in the same coordinate system or can you select a different coordinate system?
Yeah, the answer there is yes. So there's a few different coordinate references that you are able to specify in our API. I'm not sure if we expose them all in the web interface, but internally, we might store like the input files could be in one coordinate reference. You could specify a different one that we store the data natively in at rest within LumiDB, and then you could then at runtime query the data using any output coordinate reference. So and then LumiDB will automatically perform the coordinate conversion at each of these stages, so both at import time and at runtime or at export time. So all of these are very much indeed supported, and we support all of the. Essentially, you can specify either an EPSG code or any arbitrary proj for string that you would in any other tool as well.
Excellent. Next question is about Esri. So in the demo, Xavier, you showed importing it into ArcGIS Pro. Can you also import it to ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise?
Yes.
Yeah,
so
the answer there is yes. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Yasin.
You can, and I think there's maybe some limitation there as to ArcGIS Online requiring you to convert the data into Web Mercator. But other than that, I think it should be fine. But yeah, you can definitely use ArcGIS Online for that as well.
Yeah, if I can add a little bit of color onto that. So once again, the i3s works for visualizing data, and ArcGIS Online works equally well for that purpose. If the user wanted to process or perform any processing with the data within ArcGIS, then ArcGIS Pro would be the platform to choose. But the visualization, the streaming, everything is possible in ArcGIS Online.
Let's see. I think we answered this one. Yes, can I share data outside of an organization? Zabi went over that. There's different ways that you can set those permissions. What point cloud, well, we covered this one as well, the point cloud formats that you're able to upload from TerraSolid. What is the cost of the platform? That's always the question.
Yeah, so I can take that. So the plans start currently at $230 per month for a single viewer with 1 terabyte of storage, and up to a workflow tier with an API or a stream access for teams or custom enterprise pricing for on-prem development. So again, happy to walk through different specifications with different users, but the lowest tier starts at $229 US.
Excellent. Last question I have, this is a very important one, but data security. Says we manage sensitive client data. Can this run outside a public SaaS environment?
So there is, yes, it can. Actually, deployment itself is fairly simple. For basically our own go-to-market and our own current pilot users, most have been happy with the managed SaaS that we do provide. But then obviously we realize that there's a lot of data that cannot leave the local premises, local server rooms and whatnot. And for enterprises, we do support, well, basically from a full on-prem deployment, a spectrum of that, and then managed SaaS. So there's all kinds of like single tenant deployment options there as well. But the answer is that we are very flexible on that regard. We haven't fully productized an on-prem deployment, but we are working with different companies and institutions to make that happen as we speak. And so we would be happy to, like, if there is a hard requirement for that, we'll let that stop you from reaching out and getting in touch with us, because that is something that we are currently working on and is very much on our plate at the moment.
Thank you, Yasa. That's all the questions we have. If anyone else has any other questions, please put them in the chat. If not, please join us August 5th when we will talk about some of the API integrations. So the engine that LumiDB manages can be put into your own software, and those APIs can be integrated into custom tools, creating efficiencies over some of the other back-end pieces that are available today. So we'll go through what that looks like and how to use those different pieces in your own integrations. So I don't think we have any more questions. I want to thank Xavier and Yasin for joining us today and showing some of the different features and functionalities of LumiDB, some of the different integrations and use cases within the ecosystem. So thank you both very much for joining us, and thank you everyone for attending this first of 3 webinars on LumiDB.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Caroline. See you next time.
Thank you.
And last housekeeping, this has been recorded. We will post this so that you can share it with others. All right. Thank you, everyone.